Hi there. Welcome to the Ohio Department of Youth Services podcast, The Future in Focus. I'm your host, Chaba Sukos. Thanks for joining me here for episode 6 of our journey through juvenile justice. Our exploration of DYS enlightenment leads us to the subject typically associated with that expression, education. Since DYS is responsible for young people, most of whom haven't completed high school, a large investment of the agency is focused on getting used to that milestone and beyond. To help us better understand challenges, solutions, and the remarkable breakthroughs, I'm joined by the leader of the DYS School District and the leaders of each high school. They include Buckeye United School District Superintendent Dr. Michael Jackson. From our Circleville campus, Ralph C. Starkey High School Principal Dr. Michelle Milner, Principal Daniel Hanstein, the man in charge of Luther E. Ball High School and our Cuyahoga Hills campus, and Indian River High School Principal Jacob Steuer. Before we get going with the school project that is this breakdown of a podcast, please tell us about your educational backgrounds and your roles as superintendents and or principal. Dr. Jackson, we'll start with you.
I am a native of Hampton, Virginia, and my undergrad degree is in physical education from Hampton University. My master's is in early and middle child education from The Ohio State University, and so is my PhD in multicultural equity studies education.
What about your journey through the educational ranks?
What brought me to Columbus was the opportunity to teach in Columbus City Schools, where I taught at Alum Crest High School to begin my career, which is now Columbus Iota. I taught there for 3 years and then transitioned into the assistant principal role there. I was also then able to leave education for a couple of years, work in the NBA with former NBA All-Star and Hall of Famer Allen Iverson. Then I was able to come back, and that is when I was able to have my first stint in DYS. I was a principal at Scioto River High School for 2 years. And then I went to higher ed for 5 years at St. Augustine's University in various number of roles, the last being of chair of liberal and interdisciplinary studies. Then I came back to Ohio after a brief stint in Columbus City, did 7 years in Pickerington, assistant principal at Pickerington High School Central. And then I finished there as the first director of diversity and engagement. Then I had a distinguished honor of returning back to DYS as superintendent in August of 2023.
Principal Steuer, we'll carry on with you now.
Yeah, so I graduated from Walsh University 2007 with a bachelor's in physical education and health. My first position was actually at DYS at Indian River, started there in 2008, so I'm just finishing up my 17th year. I got my master's in educational administration from the University of Scranton in 2014, became the assistant principal, and then I became the principal in 2017. Most recently, I just got my superintendent's license from Ashland University.
Dr. Milner?
My career took like a different journey. Started out in business, was an account executive for United Parcel Service for at least 9 years. Decided that I didn't like to have to work all year round with only getting 2 weeks of vacation time. So I ventured into education. Most of my family members have been in social services for a lot of their careers. So went back to school to get a educator's license in special education. Was a special education teacher for a good 7 or 8 years with Columbus City Schools, and then progressed into a consultant, coordinator, and then end up being assistant principal and principal. Worked for several different school districts. Did a stint one summer in working downtown in our juvenile detention center as a summer school teacher, and enjoyed that experience. And then, what do you know, years later, the opportunity presented itself to come back into DYS as the principal of Ralph Starkey High School.
I've been there for 2 years now, roughly,
Yeah,
just like
2 years.
Just like Dr. Jackson. Principal Hanstein, we close it out with you.
I also got my bachelor's degree in health and physical education. Taught physical education in South Florida for 6 years. I'm a native of Fort Lauderdale. Got my bachelor's degree at the University of Florida. Then came to Ohio, where I was a teacher and then an assistant principal and then a principal with the Cleveland Public Schools after I got my master's degree at the University of Akron. I left Cleveland after 6-7 years there and moved out to a suburban district on the east side of Cleveland and was there for 7 years, and was kind of drawn back by a friend who was the principal at the time at Luther E. Ball, who asked me to come work for her, and I started there as a science teacher and then progressed into being the assistant principal and the principal, and I've been there for about 15 years, but this is year 34 in education, I guess.
Yeah, certainly a lot of tenure, a lot of experience, a lot of different experiences right here. Because Buckeye United School District is probably something very unfamiliar to a lot of people out there. Dr. Jackson, how does that fit into the school system within the state of Ohio?
Not only do we have students that are emotionally, socially, challenged, we do have young people who have engaged in poor choices that landed them here with us. In many cases, they come from backgrounds and families that have a generational mistrust of systems, whether it's the justice system, the medical system, or the educational system. And so we are taking young people who have many challenges, both familial and personal, and many times taking a young man that may not have had a formal education for a few years, and not only reigniting them in their fire to learn, but also once that happens, these awesome administrators here are leading buildings where we are taking a young man who has a very first, second grade literacy level and trying to get them to the point where they can graduate, getting young men to buy into their future. Then we've really not only turned around their lives, but the lives of their families.
Quick question just to follow in terms of the structure of the school system within the state of Ohio in terms of the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce.
We are a public high school in Ohio, certainly a well-connected district that works, tirelessly to meet stated goals, and we do a phenomenal job at that.
In terms of the school day and the structure of the school system or the school days, what does the schedule look like and what kind of subjects are we teaching these students?
There's a misperception that we don't try to function as your traditional public school. In reality, we are set up like that. So we have 8 42-minute periods in your day. We start at 7:30 in the morning, 4 periods in the morning. You have a break from 10:30 to 12. That time is designated for lunch and for planning time for the teachers. During that time, your students will have lunch as well, maybe group and rec, and they have 4 more 42-minute periods, and we dismiss at 3 o'clock. We offer your core classes, math, English, science, social studies. We have elective options, and we also have career tech options.
Describe the classroom in terms of the visual, what it looks like, the class sizes, and the range of students you might find at a given time.
It's kind of a requirement of ours that our classrooms are inviting. Like Dr. Jackson said, our kids come from a distrust of the education system, so we try to make them comfortable, but also set expectations for what they're expected to do in that classroom. So you can walk into any classroom in the 3 buildings and you know what's being taught in that classroom. What's the expectation for the day? What do you need to do to be successful that day? How are you going to be evaluated on your success daily, weekly, quarterly, however it may be? Our class sizes generally are between 6 and 10. You get above that number and you're not doing the kids a service because the teachers don't have time to individually meet the needs of 10 very distinct and different kids in the classroom, because you will get kids in a classroom with a reading level as low as 3rd or 4th grade, all the way up to a kid who's reading beyond a senior in high school, but they're in the same classroom. So that teacher has to service all of those kids at the same time and meet them where they are and do everything we can to push them beyond where they came to us, with the goal being a year's growth, and if we have them for a year or more. The kids get a lot more individualized attention so that we're able to bring them along that journey a little quicker.
Sure, makes sense. The kinds of youth we're dealing with in that sense, they're coming with all kinds of hindrances along the way in that way. We're dealing with teens, sometimes up in their 20-year-olds range. What are some of the impediments that they're facing?
All of the things you just mentioned all roll into the same pot. A lot of our students have not had positive experiences in school, and it really boils down to the point of them not knowing how to be students. A lot of our kids had stopped going very early in their careers while they were still developing. So some of the struggles, trying to give them a positive experience, help them understand that being here and being focused and engaged can help open those doors that in their minds have been closed. If we're providing that space, that safe space, and they can see the progress, and it's baby steps, and having the patience to work with this population of kids, this kid does not normally or is able at certain points to sit for 42 minutes. So you have to be able to keep pivoting and learning what the stages, knowing the kid and what makes them tick. So the baby steps becomes those bigger stepping stones to the potential that they can have. And, it all culminates in that graduation when we see, hey, you did something. Avoiding everything else at this point, regardless of your circumstances, this is a culminating moment for you that you did. I am going to make sure that they at least leave there with something in their hand that has something to do with their progression in their life after they leave DYS.
Are there any specific things you do in terms of reinforcing that, whether it's just through your behaviors or certain things you do just to make sure that there is that constant push and getting them through?
Some of them are really shy about them really believing in themselves. Me as a person, and I encourage my staff, is building those relationships. You got to know something about everybody. So for me, it's my humor. It's grabbing those kids at that moment and that moment in time. It's always a delay when that thank you comes. And again, a lot of our kids, they can't even really express and articulate their emotions. And for young men, that's a challenge. So again, a lot of the programs that we have put in place to help those little senior kids are, credit recovery, spending a lot of time with our Title I teacher, working on those skill sets that's going to help them gain a job, keep the job, those soft skills that is sometimes missing in curriculums today that our kids so desperately needs. Thank yous doesn't always come from verbal.
Yes.
It comes in the product that comes out at the end.
You got to celebrate the little things. The big things will come, but you've got to take those steps. It might be kid got a C on his test in whatever class. He may never have done that before, so you have to celebrate him. You have to make him feel good about every little thing that he has accomplished, or you're never going to get anywhere.
There are a lot of other educational opportunities within these facilities. It could be in a career sense, it could be in a personal development sense. What else do we have to offer?
Yeah, so like Dr. Milner said, we want to give them something when they leave, a tool so they can do something with it. So at Indian River, we have carpentry, where they go in and learn the construction trade. We also have horticulture. So we have a greenhouse. They do landscaping, planting. And we have partnerships with outside communities where we donate stuff. And then we also have auto tech. You're learning your basic skills where you can go somewhere and be able to do an oil change or do a tire rotation or do HVAC. And we've had kids go into those programs and we're giving them tools so when they leave, they can gain employment. Another thing we do in that carpentry class is we have forklift. Since our carpentry teacher's been there, we have over 200 forklift licenses that he's gotten. And those kids can take that license, go out to a Home Depot or an Amazon and get a forklift job right away. Another thing we do is we have ServSafe. So ServSafe is a certificate where when they leave, they can go work at a restaurant. They're already certified to do that, to get that job. And then the other thing we do, we have a partnership with Stark State. So our graduates, when they're done, even with us, there's a graduate program at all the schools. So we have a partnership with them. They can begin getting college credits there. So they kind of get a start with us doing those things.
In terms of the response or the engagement you get with youth in the non-academic sense, just because a lot of youth certainly aren't built for that environment or that setting. They're much more hands-on, so to speak, whether it's through the trades, whether it's through these exploring opportunities through the arts in some way.
I've had a couple of students who have been great artists, and we encourage that. Early last year, we had a student, one of our teachers submitted a student for a contest for the state of Ohio, and he did win a $500 scholarship for his artwork that he designed. We were still trying to connect him with Columbus Arts and Design School for an opportunity to move that dream further. There are some quiet geniuses that roam our hallways.
We're charged as educators to help our young people see in themselves things that they can't even identify, opportunities and careers that they don't even know exist. It's incumbent upon us to engage our young men, get to know them, observe them, and watch the skill sets that they naturally exhibit, and then present them with these opportunities. Each of our sites now have recording studios. If you're in a limited frame of mind, you might be thinking, oh, well, you just create an opportunity for these kids to go in there and fulfill their dreams of a rap demo or something like that. But we think larger. We're saying, I know we have young people that want to be journalists. We have young people who will be awesome in a broadcasting situation, in the broadcast seat. We see those opportunities as separate and apart, but also phenomenal opportunities for these quiet geniuses to have opportunities to go out and not just have a job, but have a career that they're passionate and that provides purpose for them and joy, lifelong joy.
It's those outside the academic areas where a lot of our kids thrive. 3 years ago or so, my wife and I were in the Cleveland airport. I recognized the young man in front of me, and he turned around, and you could tell he knew who I was, but I didn't want to call him out. As we went through, he came up and he told me that he was on his way to Atlanta because he's working in the music production business. So it's not making the demo tape, but it's learning how to do it. And he has made a career out of doing that and has been fairly successful.
We're in the thick of graduation season right now. Having been to a couple now over at Cuyahoga Hills, Principal Hanstein, I know it's always an emotional day for you. You're always so happy. What's going through your mind when you see everything happening in front of you?
It's the affirmation of everything we do daily. You can see it on the kids' face. You can see it in their family's face. Somebody mentioned, I don't remember who, that it may be a generational thing. And the majority of our kids, unfortunately, are the first ones in their families to graduate. So you sit back and you think, I remember when he got here. He didn't think he could do anything. He's been told his whole life he's never going to be anything. Then he did something stupid that got him to me. So everything's just been knocking him down, knocking him down, knocking him down. You're standing here handing him his diploma, and you have visions going through your head of what he could be. This one could go on to be, as Jake said, he could be a carpenter or an electrician or an HVAC technician, or he could be going on to college. He could be a professional athlete. They all are going to be professional athletes if you ask. But you see their future open up. Just standing there with me on that stage is something they never thought they'd be able to do. So why not just take that and explode with it?
Ditto. For me, is the preparation. The whole thing of helping a young man tie a tie for the first time, having a young man put on a collared shirt, a button-down shirt. Had a young man the other day, he was preparing to get his picture taken, and we were just having a sidebar conversation, and I know his family, and he just started to cry. And he's one of our senior, I call him my OG students, and the thought of him possibly now graduating high school before he leaves on his 21st birthday, that was it right there, that moment. Having a son myself, there are things that we take for granted. Mm-hmm. My son goes to a private school, so he wears a shirt and tie every day. And so it's just amazing to see them dressing up for something that they did. Fulfill your purpose. It's something you did. Yes, we have people there helping you, but you did this. This is yours. This is not going to change, because that's something that will allow them to think even bigger about the potential.
Speaking of graduates, Dr. Jackson, we have a big initiative going on right here in terms of making this possibility more of a reality with the young people that come to DYS. Portrait of a Graduate, tell me about it.
Graduation is this culmination of hard work, dedication, investment by our students and our staff. What you want to be able to say is, oh, because they have this degree, they have the capacity, they have the ability, they have a plan. And I have seen it across every level of education. We had young people that did not exactly know who they wanted to be, even in higher ed. So I was like, well, we need to focus on preparing our young men fully for post-graduation. What I want, which is driven by what is best for the needs of our graduates, is how do we position them to be successful and hit the ground running, not just with their diploma, but being with a plan for once they graduate. So our Portrait of a Graduate has 7 pillars. The thing that makes it unique about us, that we're trying to make sure that happen for our kids, is how we operationalize it. So our first pillar is to be future ready. What does it mean to be future ready? And so in that, it talks about how a student will be able to articulate, both in writing and verbally, what their plans are in a step-by-step process. There's going to be times when I can sit and interview with you and do a great job of articulating why you should hire me, why I'm qualified and have these other pieces, but there are times when only a piece of paper that I present to you has to speak for me. We want our young men to be able to share over and over who they are, who they aspire to be, and how they plan to get there. We're working with our staff to make sure that we can identify how many times Michael has articulated and successfully articulated his ability to be future ready. And so we're going to note that and market that. By the time he hits all 7 pillars, being future ready, adaptability. Certainly we have our young men, this is huge for them. And adaptability is the necessity to pivot. The reality in life, the answer will be no at some point. What are you going to do with that? Someone is going to have a different opinion. How do we handle that in a way that is reasonable and acceptable? And so we know our young men have challenges dealing with that, service-oriented, that we are mindful of the community. Our young men, for them to get here, did something that damaged or fractured either a person and or community, that we give them a sense of what community is and accountability, that they're skilled communicators, that they can use their words when they're frustrated, that they can use their words when they're emotionally overrun. These are things that we are working with our staff to integrate across all their lessons, that we're helping them to say, how do we identify this in the moment for our kids to know what these skill sets are? And we want to move from not just our teachers identifying it in our kids. When we really have arrived in maybe a year or so, we want to have our students assign a student to say, hey, okay, Chava, today we were looking for what it means to be community oriented. Who did you see in the class that articulated these? If a young person graduates with these 7 skill sets in any district in America, they are ready to go out into the workforce and be successful.
It's always awesome to be on the ground floor of something where you can see, after all the thought, the consideration, the implementation, when it starts to take root, and you can see that growth, that development with the youth, but even the staff as well, when they're able to see something that maybe they haven't done before, what they're doing in terms of their adaptability, shifting mindsets with our youth as well. I know one avenue we're using, and more kind of a scientific method, science of reading. What is that, and how are we utilizing that in terms of the curriculum?
Well, science of reading is really embedded across all of our curriculum, in particular in our Title I classes. It is the current best approach to increase literacy, for young people. If you cannot have a understanding and clarity of what you're reading, you can't acquire science ability, English ability, math ability, anything. That's why it has to be entrenched across all of our content areas.
In terms of the methods, maybe obviously being on the front lines there, what are we doing to implement and incorporate that within the curriculum?
So we put in what's called Accelerated Reader, and that was a program where we had a couple teachers took the lead on that, and like Dr. Jackson said, it just focused on reading across the curriculum. So there's, whether it's vocabulary or some kind of strategy you're going to incorporate into class, and everyone's going to do it. And then we had specific reading materials that we set aside for the kids, and we almost did like a leaderboard and a point system, or if students read so many books or these certain materials, they got points, and it was incentivized. It was a group effort with all the teachers throughout the school, and the focus was just getting them to read more is the biggest thing. Whether it's a strategy or how we're implementing it, if you're reading in all your classes and focusing on it, you're going to get better at it. So we just ensured that everyone was doing that throughout the entire school, and the kids got better at it.
Breakthroughs, accomplishments, obviously we can start to mark that more and more as we go throughout the year. To this date, what are you proudest of, achievement-wise, accomplishment-wise? We can go across the board here. We'll start at the other end with Principal Hanstein.
Where do I start? I'll just pull out one. We just got our Ohio State test results back, and in both math and reading, we exceeded the goal that we set for ourselves and for our kids. I don't recall a time in my 11 years as the principal where we had, in one setting, we sit for this test 3 times a year. We had 29 kids pass the math test this last time. We've never had 29 at one time.
Wow.
And then 15 passed the English test. So there's 15 of those kids will be joining us either this June or next June as high school graduates because they've met that requirement. But it's all based on what Jake was talking about. We focus on those skills in every classroom. If you do that, you meet the kids where they are and you focus on what their needs are, you get results like we got. And the teachers taking the time to build those relationships with the kids and giving of their own time, their own space, their own energy to work with and identify the kids who are lagging a little bit behind, and taking the time to sit down with them and discuss, what's stopping you from achieving this, and let's work on that. So the academic success for us has been huge.
Dr. Milner?
For the science of reading is really kind of zeroing in on those deficits and pockets that kids missed in their early reading development. And so one of the key things was looking at how do you work with students who are dyslexic. That component right there impacts a lot of our kids, but we didn't know how to put a name to it. And so for me, one of the extensions to helping making sure that the teachers integrate their science of reading, because all the teachers need to take this class and pass this class. And so for me, one of the successes, along with the OST passage rates of our kids that are growing, they're growing, and that's usually a hurdle that is really kind of self-deflating at some point. We have hired in a phenomenal librarian. We have taken the extension of what should be done in the classrooms into the library. What I've seen just visually is that kids who shied away from reading aloud in the classroom actually spending time in the library looking for books, looking for not just the MMA picture books, but they are really looking at a series of books that now they feel comfortable enough to actually pull from the shelves and check them out and get excited about reading the next series in the Hunger Games. That for me is showing the slow progress that we really can't put a quantitative number to, but qualitatively to see a kid, they're not hiding the books. That is great. And having a discussion, which is demonstrating some of the pillars and just their comfortableness to be able to talk about something that they were ashamed about or doubted themselves about. You know, I'm a half glass full kind of person, and so that development and growth and progress and success and all of that built in, we can put all kinds of words to it, but to see a young man walk out of the school proud about reading a library book. He's seen the movie, I want to read the book. Still can't get him to do his homework, but you know, let's pick our battles. So, but those are the baby steps and the things that make me smile.
Principal Steuer?
Yeah, so I'll go a little bit different direction here. So I know that the students are the most important thing, and we're focused on the students. But not too long ago at Indian River, we had 9, 10, 11 vacancies. Yeah. Currently, we have 3, and we've been able to put a great team and staff together. And I know these two have great staffs too, but without those people, we couldn't.
Yeah, you have no foundation, nowhere to go.
You know, these accomplishments wouldn't be there. So putting a staff together, cutting those vacancies down, surrounding the kids with people who want to be there, great teachers, it gets them to those milestones.
We invest in what we value, and certainly students, obviously, teachers very much so, and general staff as well.
I think we have the lowest vacancy rate, I think, in the last 5 or so years. And not only is the vacancy rate low, we have phenomenal educators. The successes that we're experiencing as we think about our young men being successful and walking the stage would not be possible without the phenomenal work of all of our educators. Day in and day out, they show up and they deliver for our young men. We have some of the highest graduation rates, if not in our history, certainly in our most recent history.
I heard the last decade at least.
So we're up to around 80 for this graduation for May, and looking at potentially more. This past year, we had our first convocation, our first district convocation, which is the opening, the welcoming, of our teachers back, setting the tone and stage, for the upcoming year. We had our first district awards at our convocation as well, where we acknowledged our staff. And we just had our first, Teacher of the Year agency recognized. We had our first newsletter, the United. We wanted to be able to tell our story in a way that only we can, which is a quarterly newsletter. What we'd like to have happen next is that we have the United Voice, which would be the student version. Our goal is to have a student-run newsletter, editor, and reporters. Again, we connect that to podcasting and all those other pieces when we talked about the recording software. And then lastly, we have the implementation of the Portrait of a Graduate. A word I often use when I look at the work that we're doing is alignment. Everything is aligned and connected. When we look at the build project and program that we're doing for our grads, and how Portrait of a Graduate is the foundation of that, and how they'll directly connect our kids to be ready to go into build, better preparing our young men to go out and attack the world. As if this stop right here certainly didn't hold them back, but it was a necessary stop along their journey for them becoming who they were meant to be. I can't say enough about the sustained leadership that we have over our buildings as well. I could go on all day about our successes over the last year, but really excited about where we're going.
Sure. That leads us to our final thoughts. We're proud of what we've done, but now we're obviously always looking ahead to bigger and better things.
Yeah, so we're striving in 25. We're continuing to build. We're excited for our next convocation. We're going to continue to build on Portrait of a Graduate and its implementation and integration across our classrooms. We expect to see that impact happening, changes happening in our kids and our staff as well. We're adding in different ways in which to monitor and track our young men hitting their goals. Once our young men hit all 7 pillars, then we want to have a 7-pillar club and incentivize that properly so young men can be excited and be leaders within our buildings. As far as science of reading, we're constantly looking for more tools to add to our teachers' toolkit to be better educators and better serve our kids.
Any furthering momentum for you, Principal Steuer?
I think Dr. Jackson covered it, but we're going to keep doing Portrait of the Graduate. It's a big thing at Indian River as well. Just being creative, implementing it. We do have those pillars posted all over the school and the classrooms, just getting the kids and the teachers more familiar with it and just keep moving forward and improving.
Dr. Milner?
Ditto.
Yeah, if we could just do ditto, here we go. Just
First time you've
I just look forward to the next season. To me, I kind of just break things down in quarter-wise, and there's always room for growth, and I just enjoy the successes because I love to celebrate.
The celebrations are great, but we're never done. We had a staff meeting not too long ago, and the whole focus of it is, okay, this is what we've done. Now what can we do better? What can we improve upon? What do we need to fix? What's good, but you can always get better.
Yeah, never satisfied. That's why we keep doing what we're doing. Moving upward and onward. Principal Hanstein, Dr. Milner, Principal Steuer, Dr. Jackson, appreciate you all very much for your time. Coming up on our next episode, we'll go further into the educational and developmental opportunities in a facility beyond school. It could be a career or trade, life skills like financial literacy, or personal tools to regulate emotions and navigate challenging situations. We'll sit down with Jack Vicencio, the Bureau Chief of Programs and Unit Management, as well as program administrators and recreational staff. They'll share what's being done to empower young people with life-changing knowledge. And be sure to follow us and keep subscribing to us here on the Future in Focus podcast and let others know about it too. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or watch our videos right here on the Ohio DYS YouTube channel. Thanks for listening and watching. We look forward to having you with us for our journey through juvenile justice here at DYS.